the aim of today is not just to talk about these things, Scrum, or talk about Agile, is to give a bit of an initial understanding and then ask somebody who is in the field, who is an Agile project manager and a Scrum Master within the financial services, haven't managed a couple of projects to tell us exactly, not a hearsay kind of thing, but exactly how this thing works. So now, this is not a regular demo. This is a hands-on demo. So who are we? I like to keep saying this to those who are joining for the first time. So the focus here, it's not really about come to train, and then put you as part of the training pool. No, it's to kind of help you move from where you are and then impute experience into you through whatever training and coaching program that we have put in place. So we focus on growing your experience. We focus on training and then assigning you to a mentor, to a coach, like one of the person who would be taking us through the practical side, so that we could close whatever gaps you have and increase your confidence. And to God's glory, yesterday we had a couple of students wait back. They were sharing some of the pain points they had from the previous training program that they've actually done, and how they feel empty and how they feel cheated. And the truth is that we have retrained over 100 of people coming from different training places. And I'm not going to mention name, but that's to tell you that most people really, really want the experience that you're saying you're going to give, but are they really getting it? So for those who would progress, whether it's business analysis, Scrum Master, project management, data analysis, whatever it is, we do not start until we've been able to chat, have a deep understanding with you, understand your gaps, understand your strengths, understand your weaknesses, look at the markets that you intend to apply this job. What is the market asking for? What do you lack? And then prepare this 2 to 4 years roadmap on not just how you will become that thing, but how you would grow. Now, for us, your learning cycle is not completed until you have been able to mentor one person. So, for example, if I take Precious or I take Jeffrey, for example, so if I coach you to be a Scrum Master or a cyber security engineer or whatever it is, I'm expecting that you would go out as a seed, grow, bear fruit, and then let until a seed comes back as a seed. The cycle is not complete. So until you can go out and then give birth and then come back to to coach somebody to become what you have become, your own learning cycle is not complete. So that's why for us, it's about continuity, and we do that via partnership, and there's a whole lot of gains and benefits. So who is a Scrum Master? Who is an Agile project? So some people twist it, Agile project manager, Scrum Master, because properly in an Agile environment, they didn't give space for business analyst, or they didn't give space for project manager, they didn't give space for any other person other than the product owner, Scrum Master, and the Scrum team. But then with the way things are going, that no project goes 100% Agile. So there's a hybrid handshake between all of this, and a Scrum Master is required to have project management experience since he's driving delivery on a day-to-day basis. But let's have a look. Now, this guy's job or this lady's job is to facilitate Scrum events, be the coach. He knows Scrum, and then he's going to coach Scrum and use those Scrum principles to deliver value. So his aim is to ensure that if everybody here is in my Scrum team, I would go looking for whatever thing is a blocking issue for you and try to gather them, help you solve them so that you can focus on the work. So it's not just about tracking issues, it's about helping people to ensure that those issues are being resolved. So to do this, what do they manage? So day-to-day product delivery. So it's like they are more delivery centric, they are more execution centric. So they are like close out things, close out things, close out things, eliminate what will prevent something from being closed out. And they look at issues, impediment, blockers. They have agile events in their head. We'll look at the agile events in the next slide. Sorry. Because of their servant leadership kind of thing, they ensure that they eliminate anything that would eliminate the project, but then without affecting the chemistry of the team. So their main interaction is with product managers, product owners, the agile business analyst, and the Scrum team, because the Scrum Masters dwells within Scrum. I know somebody's going to ask, Darlington, how do you know all of these things? Last week you spoke project management. You also spoke business analyst. Yesterday you spoke product management. I don't know. If you want to know, we'll learn it in a Bible study. So, but what do they use? Yeah, so they track. So sometimes they use their own form of dashboards. They create their own form of plans. The way they strategize is a little bit different from the traditional project management way of strategizing. So they keep impediment logs, they look after risks, when things are changing. For example, if we say our sprint is 2 weeks, now he makes sure that that 2 weeks is protected. If you want to bring any other thing from another place, he blocks it. In the alumni community, we had a discussion 2-3 days ago where somebody was saying, can I play the role of a Scrum Master and a product owner? The answer is no. You can't be INET and the political party at the same time. Because your role is to protect, and for conflict of interest, you can't do that. So how does things work? There is a sprint planning, then we'll grow the backlog, then he's involved in daily stand-ups. There's the development that would go on. After the development, there's a sprint review with retrospect. To do this, I think the servant leadership and the stakeholder engagement are the two key skills. I'm not saying they are the only, but I'm saying another word for Scrum is like a servant leader. And because he needs to speak with this person, check this, check that, engagement and communication is a very big key. So now I'm just going to talk about this in a very, very small way before I introduce Igechi, who would maybe he can choose any part here and give us a practical overview. So this is how things work in Scrum. First of all, input would come from the stakeholders, the executive, the sales, the marketing, the users. I mentioned product management yesterday, that depending, we have different types of product management or product managers, sorry. We have the internal product managers, the B2C, the B2B, or the person who is going to play a product owner role, right? So now in Scrum, we have a product owner. Now this product owner will collect the requirements and would convert those requirements into a product requirement specification and break it down into user stories and put them in a backlog. So, for example, if WhatsApp is going to provide a money transfer ability to transfer money from one person to the other, it's going to be in the backlog. Backlog does not mean we're going to do it immediately, but it's like it's in the pocket. So once it's in the backlog, we're going to have a Scrum Master would actually, together with the product owner, would say, let us have a sprint planning meeting. So the sprint planning meeting is where everybody would come together. Now the product owner, who is the voice of the customer, would prioritize based on the inputs he has gotten here. So we will do what? We'll prioritize the list of features or stories based on customer demand. And only the top ones would actually make themselves into a sprint backlog. So for example, if you see in this list, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but only 1, 2, 3 can be done in 2 weeks. So if your sprint is 2 weeks or if your sprint is 4 weeks, it all depends. So 1, 2, 3 can be done in 2 weeks. So we will do what? Take those 1, 2, 3 and put them in the backlog. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Now, the meeting where we would prioritize this is called a sprint planning meeting. So once we have something in the backlog, this Scrum Master has now won his cap. So what will he do? Every day. So a sprint could be 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, but standard on the average is actually 2 weeks. So this Scrum Master will do what? Set up a daily Scrum meeting. Now, this Scrum meeting is where he asks, what have we done today? I mean, what did we do yesterday? What do we plan to do today? Are there any impediments? Because this thing, the developers will take it. So the Scrum team is here. The developers, now blue is for product owner, red is for Scrum Master. Then this is the rest of the team, a developer, a QA, a designer, it all depends. Now, every day, this guy will be coming to ask, checking how we are going, so that he actually would, at the beginning, the energy is high. The aim is that as the work is being done, as the energy is coming down, the work is being completed. So it's called a burn down chart. I'm not going to go deep into that. So at the end of that 2 weeks period, we expect that these guys will do what? Say they are ready to, I mean, they've completed that viable product or completed that increment. Let me call it an increment. Now, so the Scrum Master books what? A sprint review meeting. Now, the person who certifies is who? The product owner, because he's the person we are working for. So now this product owner, in the review meeting, the team will demonstrate what they have done to the product owner. The product owner will say, okay, yes, this is matching whatever requirements that we have gotten. So once the sprint is completed, we'll have a sprint retrospective meeting. After that, we'll come back to our sprint planning. So this explains Scrum in 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. So the person who ensures that the moment you have entered his domain, he looks at ensuring that that 2 weeks and the scope of that 2 weeks or whatever we aim to achieve is done. All right. Any question here before I introduce the lead? Okay. Yeah.
I wanted to just quickly ask. So when you are talking about the finished product, what you said that will be presented as the finished product, is it the 1, 2, 3 that you took into the tax breakout, or the 1 to 8?
No.
Because from what you explained, you said 1, 2, 3 will be taken into the first Scrum, and then so I hope you get my question clearly.
I get it 100%. So the finished product is whatever is coming out from that sprint. Now it's an increment. So normally, now it depends. We have, once there's this release, we do a review, and that increment it comes on. So you could see the finished product from 2. If you want to look at it from everything sums up to this, but look at the color of the finished product. The color of the finished product matches the color of the prioritized stuff, which goes into the sprint planning. So each finished product acts as an increment on top of each other. So for example, let's say you, Sammy, you have a business you run a logistics business, but now you have competitors around, and you've been doing your business off the internet. You've been using maybe WhatsApp, you've been using this, but due to competitors, you now want to go full blown. You need to have a website. Now that website will allow people to come place orders. They could track their orders. They could do every of these things. Now, you know that maybe if you want to develop the full website, it's going to take about 3-4 months. But in 2 weeks, so let's have the full list of all the features, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe to like 32. That's for the completed website. But in 2 weeks, you came to me and to Igechi, like, guys, what can we do? So I am a product owner. I looked at the list and I said, okay, we can give you a homepage with an initial message, and then with ability to book with a WhatsApp, is it chatbot or something like that. So now those 3 things would come into this sprint. The development team will do it, while a Scrum Master will be measuring every day. And at that 2 weeks, we would upload for you when you go to www.achor.com. Now you would see a page that talks brief about the company, and if you need more information, you chat us here. Now, that is not the full website, but at least it gives value to your business, that your customers know that you have online presence and they have a way to reach you via your own website. Now, why that is there, the team goes back to pick 4, 5, 6, 7, takes it to the sprint, do it. By the time we launch it to the website, at the end of that 2 weeks period, you will see ability to contact us via contact us form. You maybe be able to add things to cart. So increment, but any of those things is a finished product that can stand on their own and deliver a particular value. I don't know if you understand my stuff. So that's why we use Agile. We don't use Agile for building. We don't use Agile for constructions, because those ones you need to finish foundation before you can't say foundation. I call my wife and children, let's go and lie down. No, it's like Agile is used for all of this kind, maybe all this software kind of, where you could actually be building things incrementally and be using it. Now, it could also be used in manufacturing, where it doesn't mean a finished product is ready for use, but it can actually give a value. So if I'm going for this venture capital kind of thing, I could build a minimum viable product that I could demo and say, okay, if I get more money, I could then add more features to it.
Yes, Darlington, thank you for this explanation. Question is, what is the difference between a Scrum Master and an Agile project manager? Because an Agile project manager will also do in an Agile environment, they will have iterations and break down the project into small bits and now. So why do we have to have a Scrum Master when an Agile project manager can also do the same, follow the same process to achieve their goals? And that's one question. And the second question is there an hierarchy between a product manager or product owner and a project manager? Is there a boss of the other?
You want to look for trouble. So let me start from the second one. Now, I wish I could switch this screen and go to my other, I think. Now, in a proper project environment, right? A project manager is the interface between him, on the project level, right? The product owner, is the Scrum Master, and the development team are. So the thing is, in most organizations, they have software development teams, and they call them different names. They could call this one Alpha team, call this Beta team, call this Mavericks, call this. So these teams are already set up. They have a product owner, they have a Scrum Master, they have the developers, the QAs in different sections, and they support different projects. So in that case, a product owner will be reporting on behalf of the team the update to a project manager who is interfacing, right? So a project manager with the business analyst and the product owner would collect the requirements. The business analyst and the product owner will break these requirements into user stories. The product owner will work with the Scrum Master in terms of the delivery. So the Scrum Master is helping the product owner to kind of track up progress within there. Now, some organizations do not have that budget. So they would want, this is how it plays. This Scrum Master will step out of this place, right? And at the customer level, he's playing an Agile project manager role, right? So he is giving updates, he's doing that, he's doing this. Now, this product owner still stays where he is. Now, but when we now collect this requirement, the product owner, the Scrum Master is now, the Agile project manager now comes inside the team and plays the Scrum Master. All these things are roles. It's not like it's a name of the person. So I can play multiple roles. I can play this role, I can play that role. I've worked where I have played the product owner role together with the project manager. So to the customer, I did all the whole project planning and the rest, but then I switched to the product owner role or the Agile business analyst role, collected the requirements. Now, broke down those requirements into user stories and story points, went back into the development team and acted as a product owner in terms of planning, doing a sprint planning, and then handing over the stuff to an agile, to a scrum master to actually keep driving on a daily basis how the team velocity is going. So it's not like one is bigger than the other. It all depends on the organization you find yourself. So let me go. So this is Igechi here. Igechi is an Agile PM / Scrum Master in Canada. He actually has an MSc in International Business and has covered a cross, whether it's be it in the oil and gas, whether it be it in financial services, whether be it in technology, web development, or even in government parastatal. He was actually the project management lead in Nigerian executive, how do you, NESG is what?
Nigeria Economic Summit Group.
Before moving to Canada, where he is a technology lead with Moneris, a financial services company. So I wouldn't, there's so much to say about him. And one of the best things I would say is we started this journey. He was once sitting at the other side, like yourself or like some other persons, and we met and he started this journey towards transitioning, and I was able to coach and train. And looking back at how it's been from when we met to today, I would say to some extent I am very, very happy at what God has been able to do. Now, him coming back to share with us one of the practicalities of the Scrum Master role, I think it's an honor to have him here today. So I will just hand over to him for the next couple of minutes and let him take us through your day-to-day life, as well as maybe, I don't know which you would want to tell us today, whether it's you want to tell us about sprint planning, you want to tell us about sprint backlog, you want to tell us about sprint review. I do not know. So you lead, we would follow. So please take it over from here.
Hey, Darlington, thank you very much. You have totally done justice to the entire discussion. So please pardon me, everybody. I would have truly loved to share my camera, but I don't know why I'm not able to. But that being said, Darlington has done justice to the discussion today. So he has even made my work less stressful. Initially I wanted to talk about some intro stuff, but now I will just dive deep into some key things I think we should all be aware. Firstly, I worked with Darlington on one of the seamless projects, and like Oluseyi asked about a role play and wearing different hats. Darlington, remember the Orido project? You were the PM at a certain point. A product owner came in, Scrum Master came in, they did their thing, they left again, you took over again, driving discussion, engagement into testing, deployment. So that interface was just there, that communication was there. When it was time for Scrum Master to come in, they came in, did their work, delivered their sprints, and they moved away. Then you continued. So that Agile PM, Waterfall PM, integrating various roles, various responsibilities were just playing out. So let's not be so bogged down to say, oh, Agile PM, Scrum Master. Let's try to view it as complementary opportunities or roles that you can always tweak, you can always jump in and out and deliver your work. The main thing is just to make sure you're making progress, you're delivering your project. Okay, so that being said, thanks everybody for joining us today. I wouldn't go into details of this, but there's something I want to call out, and it's this difference here where you have Scrum Master, Project Manager. Some people always ask, is it the same thing? Are they similar? How close are they? What are the differentiating factors or features of both? I'll give you just one instance. Think of going into a battlefield. Okay, think of going into a battlefield with your soldiers, your colleagues in the army. The PM is in the forefront. He's charging. Think about those ancient Roman movies we used to watch. The PM always stays in front, or the leader stays in front, and he's the one to hit the battlefield first. That's the PM. Now, where does the Scrum Master come in this kind of battle? The Scrum Master is like a general. He's at the back. He doesn't go to the work front, but he provides you everything you need. He provides you with the tools, provides you with the enabling training, the enabling environment, the transparency so that you can come back and share your challenges with him. He's at the rear, but he's supporting you fully. He's just like your football coach. He's on the sideline telling you, okay, guys, do this, try that, do this way, do that way, adjust this way. But the captain in the field is the PM who's controlling all parts of the movement. So view it from that angle. The PM is in the forefront of the lead, and the Scrum Master is at the rear. So if you're an introvert, a Scrum Master role might be ideal for you. If you're an extrovert who likes being the center of attention, then a PM role might be very, very exciting for you. What do I do on a daily basis? So I want to touch on that briefly. What do I do on a daily basis? Like as a Scrum Master, primarily I'm driving engagement. I'm discussing my team members. We are discussing issues that they may have in code-related issues they may have with accessing a test environment, defects coming back. Whatever is blocking their path is where the Scrum Master wants to make sure that enough time is spent on development. So I have this difference here. Focus point for the Scrum Master. The PO focuses on product success. He wants to make sure that the requirements from stakeholders are met. But the Scrum Master is keen on the success of the product, but ultimately his first focus is on those building the product. So his success criteria is team being successful. And the team being successful would also impact on the product being successful. So that's one difference you see. The PO is always talking about, man, we need to meet these features requirements. We need to enable these features. We need to push out this release. The Scrum Master is looking at the team, saying, team, can we manage this capacity? Can we do it by this timeline? Can we, do we have a reserve capacity to manage building features as well as managing, let's say, production issues that are coming out from what we have pushed into production environment previously? So that's one focus difference that you always see in an agile environment. So what does my day look like on a standard? Firstly, I start my day basically with spending time with my Father, who's our God, because everything we do, we always need to trace it back to God. No matter how you've gained experience, no matter the competencies you have, you need that extra push to help you always be on the right path. I give you an instance. Sometimes you go for a meeting. Sometimes you don't know what to do next to help your team. The time with God or your maker can help you clear out the doubts, give you directions that you never thought. Yesterday, Darlington talked about his faith and how he starts his day. I mean, that is one thing I also love about Darlington, his time, how he cascades the message of God quietly, subtly, so that you also understand that this has a role to play in our lives. So I'm not preaching, but just for us to have that at the back of our mind, that this is a major factor in our success individually and as a group here. So I start my day with prayers, and after I do that, I need to then look at my plans for the day. I work in Canada, so there's time difference. I work in, I'm in Calgary region. My office is in Toronto, so I need to look at meetings, wake up early. 7:30 is my first meeting or my first daily stand-up, and my team members are 2 hours ahead of me, and I just need to jump in and start planning with them. So I also have to look through my planner for the day. There's this feature on Teams, planner on Teams. So I prioritize my activities there. I just look at what I have priorities for that day and clear them out, start following up on discussions, prioritizing what are the most critical for that day. Once that is out of the way, the next thing is to jump into my first daily stand-up. So I support 2 Scrum teams. One is a database cloud team, and the other one is a mobile app development team. Both are different energy. Both have different priorities. One develops work for customers to buy. The other one is not customer facing. It's just managing a database, managing a cloud service. So we get into that meeting. We start discussing what we've achieved for the day before, what we plan for today, and come up with blockers. Once there's any blocker, once there's any issue, a Scrum Master stepping in to manage that issue, that dependency. One thing you also realize that, or what that I've realized over the years, is that sometimes my developers don't even know that that thing is a blocker, but you, the Scrum Master, will be able to understand from experience that, hey, this is a blocker for this guy. He may say, I'm not able to test a feature using, let's say, Visa card, for instance. I'm trying to test Visa card payment, but it's not working. I'll try it again. That try it again, to me, is time waster. I want him to spend time developing. Why do you want to waste time trying it again? I can step in there and say, hey, where can I help you out here so that you can test this thing seamlessly? And he might say, oh, I need to speak to QA team or QA lead to help me manage this. And the next thing I'm saying, okay, don't worry, keep doing your work. I'll step in and engage that team just to make sure that you don't waste time pursuing external teams. So that's how the daily stand-up is. So we'll look at a template of it. We'll look at what it looks like after now. Then right after that, like after my daily stand-up, is a lot of follow-up actions, meeting up with business leaders, meeting with other teams, trying to drive alignment, engagement, just to make sure that whatever the team needs is progressing. If it's not being closed out, there's an ETA when it to be closed out. And with my product owner, we're working together to look at how we are progressing with the current development work, and then aligning or discussing to understand features that will come in the next month. What we call road mapping. So we're looking at our roadmap, where we are going to, what is likely to be in the release that we're going to push out in the next 2 weeks. So we run 2 week sprints, basic, and I do this for both teams, align on what we are doing now and what we're doing next, And lastly, exemplify some of these features. Darlington touched on this, for we who were project managers in the past, becoming Scrum Masters, it can be challenging living this life called servant leadership. Why do I say that? I'm talking from experience. PMs are always in the middle. We're in the forefront. We like that attention. We are communicating. Everyone comes to us. As a Scrum Master, is the team that now leads. I am just there to help them. I am there to coach them. I am there to facilitate events, facilitate removal of blockers or dependencies. Being a servant leader, is a different mindset entirely. And it's something that if you're not ready to walk that path, you might think your team is bossing you around. That is how it may come across. Your team is bossing you around. But no, that is how you help the team. The team now looks to you like the mother of the team. They look at you. They don't even look at the PO. It is you that they're always looking at. They say, man, I need this challenge. I have this challenge. Help me out. So you, as a PM, coming from a PM background, you might see it like, why they always coming to me, asking me to do things. But no, that is the role. The role requires mindset shift. And if you're a PM moving to Scrum Master, be ready for that mindset shift. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we have that one in vision. So for today's demo, I'll be demoing sprint planning. Darlington, I've touched on that. We've looked at the picture, we've looked at the way it flows. But you might be asking yourself, how does this even look? How does it work? How do I support my team in sprint planning? Maybe I'm keen on a role as a Scrum Master and I want to go for an interview. What if I get a question to ask me, how do you run sprint planning session? I'll try as much as possible with the time I have to detail some of the things I do differently or how it's done, so that it helps us understand what is required in planning a sprint. So first, what is sprint planning? Simply a time or agile event or ceremony where we plan the work that will be done in the next sprint. So basically, if our sprint is 2 weeks, we want to plan the stories that will be developed in that sprint. But most of all, we want to plan one key thing: the goal. What is the goal that we want to achieve in these 2 weeks? Some of you may be hearing, you may have read in book where they say, oh, get the sprint goal. Sprint goal is one thing that's most difficult for POs to coin out, and we Scrum Masters help the POs to come up with a standard goal that we can achieve. The sprint goal is not activity list. It is not task list. It is the outcome we want to see at the end of that 2 weeks. For instance, we say we want to develop a landing page for customer contact. That can be a sprint goal. We want to develop landing page for customer contact at the end of these 2 weeks. But when you're in the heat of your sprint, it is very difficult sometimes to even coin out that sprint goal. So why do we do it? We want to be able to meet customer expectation. We want to be able to deliver something, a feature, an increment that can be tested by stakeholders, that can be felt, that can give us feedback of what we have done in the past week, or even sign off that, yeah, this is good for release into a QA environment or release into a production environment, whichever one. So when I mean production means push it out so that users can start using it, or we're keeping it in a cooling point, QA environment where it will stay until the sponsor of the product says, okay, go ahead. So I'll try my best to detail this before we run out of time. So before I start my sprint planning, some of the best practices I do is, first, I work with two standard teams. Both teams have recurring meetings that I've already scheduled. I've already sent that meeting invite, so everyone knows that every 2 weeks we have sprint planning. And that meeting must be accepted by all members of my team. Also, if there are ad hoc stakeholders that must be in that meeting so that they can provide context of what we need to build in that sprint, provide additional information that will require for the developers to know what to do in that sprint, I can extend invites to them. But those stakeholders will be one-off invitation. And next to that, I go ahead to prepare the planning page on Confluence. It is this planning page on Confluence that we will do a walkthrough. You will see it, how it looks, and then we can appreciate the flow of engagement with my team. So in the meetings, the first thing I want to ensure that everyone is in that meeting so that we can get quorum. Why do we want to get that quorum? The sizing of the tickets or the user stories for that sprint must be done by everybody. What I mean by everybody is that, one, the developers have to provide their sizing for each story. The QA team, the designers, everybody who will play a role in meeting that ticket to be completed will have to give us their own sizing. And sizing is what? Sizing is simply how long we think this issue or this ticket may take us, how complex this development might be, how complex this user story might be for us to complete it within the timeline. So everybody just provides that context. So we need to size it, and sizing can be medium, large, small, extra small. Some people use numbers 4, 5, 6, 7, like that. And then at the end of that, I want to make sure that myself and the PO, we have aligned to know the candidate stories that will make it to the sprint planning. Those candidate stories must meet what we call the definition of ready. What is the definition of ready? It's just simply that those stories have information, they have description, they have acceptance criteria. The team can size it, the team can read it, understand what it is, and provide sizing for it. So we'll move over to the sprint Jira board, and then we'll go through some work I have prepared there for us to go through. But note one thing, due to confidentiality, I wouldn't be able to talk about what I do at work in detail, but I'll give you as much experience so that you understand where we're coming from. Clarification again, user stories, I've mentioned this a couple of times. It's just the work that needs to be done in the duration of the sprint. It's done by one person. The developer takes one user story. It cannot be done by two people. One person must commit to complete the user story. So it's usually small enough so that it can be completed within a sprint. It's bite size, it's very tiny. So you might see build a referral page. That's big. That should be something we call an epic because it's massive. But before you get to building a referral page, there could be lower level steps to get there. It is those lower level steps that we call user story, bite-sized small chunks that we can continue to work on until we get to building the referral page. Any question, please, before we go over to the Jira board?
Yeah, we can go to the Jira board. I'm tracking if there are questions. Yeah.
All right. So now to start my sprint planning session, the first thing I'll do, like I mentioned, I've sent invites, everyone is aligned, and everyone has jumped into that meeting. This is what a sprint planning page looks like on Confluence. This is how I do mine exactly at work. So I provide information on the initiative we're working on, which is let's say it's an LMS in this instance. Product owner, I use myself. This is the product owner, me, myself, and I. The customer have said we want to release this in Q3 of 2026. This is just high-level information. The next thing I'm looking at are those I've invited to the meeting, my capacity to deliver for the next sprint. So I have myself is there, the Scrum Master. I have my designer, one. I have an analyst, which we call a BA in some environments. I have 2 QA, I have front-end, back-end, and I have an SRE, a site reliability engineer. So this is my capacity for the next 2 weeks. Everyone in this meeting invites have told me that, hey, they don't have any holiday planned. So that's one capacity confirmed. No holiday has been planned. Everyone is available. The next thing I also want to check is my calendar. There's a calendar here. I can put everyone's holiday there, or everyone goes there to book their holiday. Once that is confirmed, the next thing now is for us to confirm our cadence for the sprint. Let's say our sprint is 3 weeks. Let's assume our sprint is 3 weeks. The PO will now come in and tell us what the goal is. But before the PO tells us what the goal is, myself and the PO, we have already decided, we have spoken vaccine to say, hey, what would the goal look like for the next sprint? And she can say, or he can say some ideas. So let's assume some sprint goal. Let me type something on the screen here, which could be our sprint goal for the next 3 weeks of this sprint. So let's say we're building an LMS, like rightly confirmed, and the PO have said, hey, this is our sprint goal for the next 3 weeks. So we want to complete design so that homepage with call to action can be ready for demo. So that is our sprint goal for the next 3 weeks of this sprint. And then the next thing I'll do for this session is we have identified the sprint goal. We now want to go to the approach. How are we going to deliver this sprint goal? What are the stories that will make up this sprint goal? That is where the team now comes into align. The team will say, hey guys, how do we progress this work? What are some of the lower level stories we need from this goal to do this work? Then now we will then go over to the Jira board to then look at stories that the PO have already prioritized and put there. The PO can prioritize work for us, he or she will prioritize work before we meet. But the team can still come into that meeting and say, look, this your prioritization will not work because of, let's say the SRE is going to be on holiday or the analyst is going to be on holiday. Because of that capacity constraint, the PO can then go back, change the sprint goal, and go back and change the priority work that he or she have done on Jira. So this is what a Jira board would look like for a Scrum team, a standard Scrum team. So let's assume that this page, this column you see here is our product backlog. And as you can see, all of them are low. This item here means priority level. They are all low priority. It indicates one thing, that we have not built our sprint backlog. The team have not committed to the work that they will do in the next 3 weeks of this sprint. So everything is still proposal from the PO. So the PO will then open one of the tickets and then read out the story point that needs the work that needs to be done. So let's assume here, we're building an element. So the LMS is learning management system. So let's assume that what we're building. Remember the sprint goal here. The sprint goal in this page states complete design so that the home page with call to action can be ready for demo. This is for an LMS system. So now we have defined the goal. We'll then now go to the Jira board to look at the stories, the candidate stories that will make it into the sprint backlog. The PO have gathered requirements from stakeholders. Those requirements they are a bit haphazard, but PO understands what the stakeholder needs. For the team, we have not committed to any work yet, but we want to now refine the work. We want to be able to look at our capacity and say, yes, can we meet up what this goal is in the next 3 weeks? So for each ticket, the PO will come in, open the ticket to everybody and read out the description and say, we are working on, let's assume that we're working on 3 profiles. We have learner profile, we have admin, we have trainer, because an LMS like Udemy would have, let's say 3 levels of users. You have people who are offering training services, you have the learners who are coming to learn, and you have like an admin access who is the owners of Udemy controlling every interface. So let's assume those are the basic users that we are working with today. So the PO will then come in, maybe open LMS 2, that's the ticket number, and he or she will read out the description of this work that needs to be done. You say, as a learner, I want to have access to courses advertised on the LMS so that I can view courses on offer. What is this here? Is the acceptance criteria. Given that as a learner, I am able to view courses on offer and make a call to action. So if I see the courses, I can go ahead and pick the one I like and progress to maybe pay or start learning. The team will then look at this work and say, okay, I will then step in and say, okay, guys, let's size this work. because this feature here is a basic usage, I'm supposed to have story points here, but I can't pick any story point. But usually you see story points on this page here. So the team will now come in and say, okay, developer or tech lead might say, look, this will be 5 story points. QA will say, well, I've looked at this. I think the level of testing will not be much. I'll do it, I would say 3 story points. As a Scrum Master, there's a mismatch. I need to step in and ask, hey guys, why do we have one person giving me 5 story points? Another person is giving me 3 story points. Where is the gap? How can we align? So the person giving me more story points, I'll ask him further questions and say, what are you seeing that we're not seeing? What is different that that we need to take into account? And he or she might say, well, I'm looking at one of my stories that I've done in the past. It was 4 story points, but because there's going to be a drop down of courses so that the learners can make a choice, I think 5 story points will be good. Then the team can also maybe like SRA can say, well, maybe this thing is actually a 5 story point because of past experience, and then because we have a number of people going for 5, we'll then pick 5 story points as our ticket, as our story point for this. Are we getting the point? Does it make sense? The sizing is not like a cast in stone that it must be 5 story points, but we're giving a near estimate of what this story point might, this level, what this work might entail. Complexity wise, some people use work hours. You could use anything, any background information you want to use, just story points to help us size the work.
So Ikechi, the point is a story point. What does a story point mean?
Okay, so a story point basically is an estimate of what will be required to complete this ticket, this LMS2 or learner access work. So it's, some teams can use it to say man hours. They say it will take us 3 hours.
Yeah.
5 hours. So 1 hour for 1 story point. There's no baseline requirement on how to use
understand.
it.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to, because some persons might be hearing story point for the first time. So if you work in an organization and we, like your organization, say a sprint would be equal to 3 weeks and a story point to be equal to 30 minutes, or a story point equals to 1 hour. So when somebody puts there that this stuff is going to take me 3 story points, so you should just know that they're saying that particular work will take them 3 hours.
Yeah.
Just for those who might be saying, what does a story point mean?
Yep. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so once the team is aligned on the sizing, the next thing is now we want to assign it to the sprint. And let's say we're using a high to say, yes, this story is complete and it must be in the sprint. Remember the picture of talent is shared. There were 8 items in the product backlog, but 3 made it into the work to be done in the sprint. So let's assume this ticket LMS2 has gone into the sprint backlog, so it has to be worked on in this sprint. The next item, the team will then look at the product backlog again. The PO will say, okay, priority discussion from my engagement with stakeholders is for admin design. As Scrum Master, I'm looking at to make sure the ticket has description, clear-cut description that the team can understand and be able to size it again according to story points. The team will then look at it and say, okay, yes, this story, well, is a design requirement. So there is no coding, there's no development, there's no testing. So we will leave the sizing to be done by, let's say, the product analyst. Some call it business analyst. So the BA or the PA might say, well, this will take me, the designer, the product designer, the team. The designer might say, well, this will take me 3 story points because I've done this in the past. It shouldn't take me much time. The business analyst that helped to gather the requirements can say, well, remember in our previous project, we had some requirements that took us some time, took us longer in designing this page. So we had to go back and forth. So why don't you consider the story point given to it? And the designer might say, okay, well, I think you're right. This might be 4 story points. Once we have an alignment, I'll step in to ask a question again. There's a difference here. You moved from 3 to 4. Why? And they'll provide more context. Once we are aligned on the context provided, the next thing we'll say, okay, this is a requirement for this sprint. And then we'll put in the sprint backlog. So now we have 2 stories in the sprint backlog. Once we put them in the sprint backlog, we'll move them up into the top of the product backlog so that they are ready to be moved into the sprint so that we can start the sprint. Then we'll then look at one more ticket. Product owner might say, I want to do something on rewards because the product sponsor talked about rewards. For me, I am already seeing a gap in this ticket. Rewards, it sounds too bogus. The team cannot size it. There is no description. You know, I will step in as a Scrum Master to tell the PO, hey guy, look, this item here does not have description. It is a reward feature. It's too large. Can you break it down further? Can you gather more requirements so that the team really understands? The PO would then say, okay, yes, I realize that we have not finished discussion with the team. I wanted just to push this in to see what can be done quickly in the interim before my next meeting with the sponsor. But as Scrum Master, I'm protecting the team. I want the team to be informed. I don't want the team to just be pulled around here and there doing work that they may not have clear understanding. So this ticket would not make it to the sprint backlog. I would have to push it back to the product owner to provide more information, provide description, acceptance criteria, and all of that. So in the meeting, I can even put a comment here and say, okay, let's say the product owner's name is Jack. I say, Jack, can you please provide more context on this to meet our DOR, our definition of ready? Even though we're in sprint planning, we're discussing, I have already aligned, say, hey, you need to provide more content. But for information, for history, and for tracking, I will still put a comment on the ticket. So the PO, who in this case we are calling Jack, will know what to do and provide the context to provide more context on this user story. So the team would then look at more of the tickets available and say, okay, this one, we can't work on this, still does not meet our definition of ready. We'll look through again, the PO will still be providing more information on what needs to be done. And so, okay, this one, admin page, admin access. Oh, we have description, it can be worked on. We'll then size it again. Let's say we've sized it 6 story points. The team is aligned to work on it in this sprint. This team has capacity to do it. So we have 3 stories that have made it into the sprint backlog that the team can fully work on, you know. So all these 3 stories that are on display that have the priority as high will be worked on in this sprint. Those who work on it can be assigned to it. Let's say if it's myself, for instance, those who work on it would then assign it to themselves, or even the PO can assign it to themselves in the meeting, you know, and everyone would be notified in the email that, hey, this has been assigned to me. I need to develop these items in this sprint. Once we have concluded all of these parts, we are ready to start the sprint. And as a sprint, as a Scrum Master, I will then go back to my, with the team, go back to our sprint planning page. You know, we have satisfied this page delivery approach. We have finished everything. Everything we've done in sizing, the stories, individual stories, overall story, we have done that on the Jira board. The next thing I'll do is to talk about reserve capacity. In case we have production issues coming during the sprint, how much work can we reserve? How much of our capacity can we reserve so that we can manage production issues? Let's say the team can manage 34 story points. So the team can possibly look at their capacity and say, well, let's set aside 20% of our time to manage production issues. So production issues are products we have in the market that are selling. Something happens and they push it back to us to resolve. We will spend 20% of our time to solve those issues. Okay. And the next thing I'll do is look at our commitment. What do I mean by commitment? Commitment simply means how much work we have agreed to do in this sprint. And I want to compare that to how much work we're able to do in the past sprint. You know, so for commitment, I could say in this sprint, I was talking about reserve capacity. I was not even sharing this page. So reserve capacity, here is it here. I've set 20%. Commitments, story points we've agreed to do in this sprint. We said 34 story points. We were able to do 30 story points in the past sprint. So now we want to challenge ourselves more. So we are taking 4 story points higher than what we did in last sprint. But as a smart Scrum Master, one thing I do is not a requirement in most teams, but one thing I do that really helped me is I brought in some additional PM related mindsets to talk about dependencies, risk, and key stakeholders. Why do I say this? The sprint is a very critical work opportunity. If you miss things in the sprint, then you've missed out work to be done that you could have achieved in the next 2 weeks. And stakeholders, there's a risk that stakeholders might be disappointed, or you may not be able to meet up your release timeline. So for one thing I will always ask my team during that sprint plan is, what is our forecast of dependencies? What are the things we need to make sure we have in place before we commence this sprint? The team can call up number of items. I have some on the screen here. The team can raise a number of items and say, we need these items for the next sprint to be successful. For instance, test environment access. Maybe a queue is I need access to test environment. I, the Scrum Master, will step in and say, okay, this test environment, I don't want you to waste your time pursuing stakeholders for this. I will go and sort it out for you. Another person might say, like the PA might say, I need to finalize requirement review with the stakeholders, then that will be assigned to the PA to run that show. Maybe the team needs technology support from a different team. As Scrum Master, I'm stepping in to help them get alignment. Remember, Scrum Masters manage dependencies, remove blockers. So I want to make sure that the team is not spending time chasing some of these things that I can do for them that could take them away from doing development work. Okay, so that is some of the things that I always ask my team to point out during sprint planning, to call out their blockers, call out your blockers, call out your key issues, areas you need support, so that we can go ahead and clear those out as soon as possible. Then for risk, I also get my team to talk about risk. I ask them, what are the key risks that we forecast in this sprint? One of them, somebody might say, hey, I see a release readiness for a soft launch because compliance have not signed off on our dates that were proposed. What do? I want to engage compliance team to get that blocker out of the way. Again, I'm saving my team time from leaving development work to start chasing various stakeholders. And another question I also ask my team is on who are the key stakeholders we need to engage in this sprint. In that question, I'll be expecting my product owner to step in fully. It's okay. Product sponsor, we need to align dates, for instance. So that will be go to product owner. Maybe PA needs to finalize work with the test sample audience for testing some of our features that were pushed out. That I will assign to the product owner to take and close out. So by the time you go through all of this, you have been able to plan your sprint work for sprint 5. Let's say this is sprint 5 now. You've been able to forecast the activities you need, forecast issues that may come up, get commitment from your team, align on dependencies, align on who are the key stakeholders that we need to work with in this sprint that is about to start. Once we do that, we then go back to our Jira board to now start the sprint. Because this is a sample page, I'm not able to start a sprint. But once we start the sprint, one of the developers can move a story to in progress. Designer is designing work. Other developer is working on this. So various tickets will be moving across the board. Let's say this is on deployed, is in QA environment, and we don't have any ticket done. So on a daily basis, as the Scrum Master, we'll then be having our daily stand-up. And for daily stand-up, I will use this page. This is what a daily stand-up page looks like. Exactly the way it is at my work. So each day, we'll be discussing what was achieved the day before, what we plan to achieve today, and what are the blockers. So each team member will provide context on what have been achieved the day before. Let's say this team member 1 says, I kickstarted development on landing page for students, LMS2. So if you go back to your Jira board, you will see LMS2 is in progress. LMS2 is in progress. So it means that the sprint goal is in progress. Another developer might say, I called yesterday, I was sick, so I couldn't do much work. But today, I'm working on trainer page access and I want to complete it by end of today. I don't have any blocker. Another developer might say, I'm working on LMS4, QA returned what I did yesterday, so I need to work on it again. But what the QA said was that what I did failed acceptance test. So my work around will be to investigate why LMS4 failed acceptance test. So if you go back to your Jira board, you will see that LMS4 is actually in progress. There it is. It was in QA, but QA have flagged it as having issues and returned it back to the developer. So as the developer, I will make sure that he or she investigates that issue. We'll work together if need be to understand why that issue failed acceptance test and close that out and push it back to the QA. So every day we'll be having engagement like this every day to discuss how we are progressing. It is from this daily stand-up template that you will be able to ascertain how you are progressing towards your sprint goal.
Igechi, I think next session we'll look at the daily stand-up very, very well. I think today was just to speak more on on the sprint planning. So like the diagram that I showed, just kind of a picture of how the product owner would collect the requirements, how the product owner would create the backlog, and then how those backlogs would be prioritized and then moved into sprints. But I think what you've shown us today is practically how, it's one thing to give a slide to say this is how this thing is. It's another thing to say practically
hand in hand. Yeah.
This is how a sprint plan looks like, all the people that are involved. And then you go to the backlog, you go through those items, and then you prioritize them. Once you prioritize, whatever thing is prioritized will be taken to become
into the sprint.
A sprint backlog, which will then the developer picks, the designer picks, the QA picks, and the end of that 2-3 weeks period, everything is supposed to move from design, development, deployed to done. So once it is in done, that is when we can then invite the product owner back for a review. So actually the question you asked the last time about finished work, a finished work is anything that has moved from to do to done. And those things will meet a particular goal that we had in the sprint. So thanks for that. I don't know if we have more questions. I want to try to release people in the next few minutes. The only thing I want to say is you almost, if not that I like what I'm doing, you almost made me to start changing my CV to want to go and start applying prepare myself for Scrum Master. But
the truth is that when you hear trainings about Scrum Master, it is very bookish. It is very, very bookish. They just tell you, oh, Scrum Master does this, Scrum Master does that. No, it is beyond that. It is beyond just engaging daily stand-up, getting feedback. It is way beyond that.
Yeah.
The Scrum Master wears various hats. He's an integrator, he's a negotiator, he's a conflict negotiator, he's a problem solver. He's in the center of the relationship between the product owner and the development team, and also managing various expectations that the team needs from other outside teams. So it's a very, very interesting role. It is very lovely. If you really want to grow your leadership qualities, especially in coaching, in facilitation, mentoring, then this is one area that can help you grow fast. Especially when you now have background in project management. That means the sky is basically your limit. In where I work in Monaris, I'm one of the Scrum Master that people look up to because I have been able to fathom the Scrum Master role differently. So my daily stand-up, my meetings, or my sprint planning is always different. So the goal is always to coach the team. The goal is always to work with the team so that we are making progress at every point in time. So I just wanted to put that out there that, look, trainings is different from hands-on. What I've done today is quickly show you a snapshot of what the daily stand-up is, the sprint planning is. And I've even given you a teaser into what the daily stand-up actually looks like. that will be done left for a future date where we can have another discussion on that. One thing I would like to also call out before we go is my role as a Scrum Master. There's one part I really love, and that is the end-to-end integration I'm able to do across various teams. Aligning various teams is something that you would do as a Scrum Master. You will see your team relaxed whilst you take away a lot of heavy load from them by helping them meet the expectations outside your team. So thank you. Any other question before we go?
Yeah, Mr. Igechi, thank you so much for the class. I mean, the sprint planning and the how you explain the daily stand-up are very interesting. Thank you so much. I have a question. So my question is because I've seen a lot of vacant roles that are being advertised on this job board like LinkedIn and the rest of them. Most of them lay emphasis on the Scrum role with technical skills. So I want to ask, I mean, is it a must that a Scrum Master should have some kind of technical skills, to really function? But because for everything that I understand about Scrum role, Scrum role is actually separated from technical skills, so it's not required. I mean, that's what I understand from when I was learning about Scrum and all that. But from the job that are being advertised these days, you see most of them being linked to applicants having Scrum role. Applicant having technical skills. So I just want to understand: is it a must, or is it just that things are changing now that employers are now started to look at or consider those Scrum Masters with technical skills?
Yeah, that's a very good question. In fact, when I got my job at Moneris, I had cold feet before I started because Moneris is very, very technology based. Very, very technology based. So I would say it is not bad to have some technical competence, but it's not compulsory. So that's why I have this page here, because I know this question will come up. Technical understanding is very good. I had a Scrum Master that joined my company, and we had a discussion, and she said that she wanted to focus on Scrum ceremonies. But I asked her one question: you're new to the organization, your team is very technology based. Why don't you understand your technology stack, what your team is building, so that you can speak the language? That is the essence. You don't want to be lost in conversations. It is good to have a basic understanding of what your team is building, no matter how little. Because one, you will be capturing daily stand-up items. The team cannot be talking about development work, some key terms, and you don't know, you're lost. So it is good to have some technology understanding. It's not compulsory, but for me, from experience, I would say spend time to know the technology part of your team, what your team is building, how they're building it, who they're building it for, what that thing will do for the customer. Have that basic understanding so that when you're in a meeting with your team members or outside teams that are supporting your work, you can speak the language. So I would say yes, please, if you can, please do. Secondly, remember, you're going to grow, and one of the growth paths might be to become like a program manager, for instance. You cannot step into a program manager role when you don't know much about the technology foundation of what your team is building. So as much as possible, try to know what the team is building, because it will help you in the long run. It has helped me, speaking from experience. Understanding the technology side of the team is really, really important, and you can learn that from your tech lead on your project. You can spend time to understand the system architecture, just high level. You don't need to go in depth, know codes and all that. Just know the product, what it will do, the value to provide, why you're building it, who it is for, the features. Just know those things on a high level. It will help you stand out from the crowd. I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much, Mr. Igechi. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, dear.
Thank you for the presentation. That's the part I joined. In fact, very, very insightful, I must say. I didn't join on time.
Okay.
So, but the problem I'm having now is that I noticed that since I've been attending this one just to Mr. Darlington, I've not been getting the recorded class. So I don't know how I can get the recorded training.
Okay, I think the recorded one for project management was sent. So the one for the BA and the product owner and this one, Scrum Master, will also be sent. It's just that we need the editor to prepare the stuff, and if there are any personal information and the rest, so that before you actually put it up there. You know, we're trying to use this demo to at least to show us as much practical as possible. But in case there are any, for privacy reasons, just to do some final editing before the stuff is sent out. So surely you get all the recordings. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much for the project management that took place last week. I attended the class, but I've not gotten the recording.
I think it was sent. It was sent out via email to all the people who registered. But please, if you drop your email again, I would
Yeah,
send it to
send
you.
it. Okay, Precious.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
So my question is to Mr. Igechi. When you talk about technical skills, I can see metrics and reporting,
Yeah.
and I can see technical debit awareness. Like these skills, how can we go about them? Can we just find the materials online, or is there a special way we can get
Yeah.
hands on?
To help you get you, I think if you go to one of the supermarkets, right, you can buy. so, so just joking. I think some of these skills are actually gotten while
On the job,
on the job, right? So this is why what we do is there's a gap in the market. Everybody just comes, tells you Scrum Master, and only show you that initial stuff I showed, which is described to you a Scrum Master, right? It's in your head, but pictorially or kind of practically, you don't even know how it's done. You know what they do, but you don't know how it's done. So, for example, if any of you here decide to say, I want to pick up the Scrum Master, or I want to pick up business analyst or project manager or whatever it is, apart from the practical training, the training which is show you practically how this thing is done, then there is that 6 to 8 weeks pairing you. So for example, let's say Precious will pair you with Igechi to work day by day, hand in hand. So whatever planning, sprint planning Igechi is doing, you do it with him. Whatever daily stand-up you're involved, whatever. So by working side by side with Igechi, you would gain these skills so these skills don't fall from heaven, right? They fall when you're working hand in hand with either project manager or data analyst so that is what we do. So there's a training side, and then after the training there is that hand holding side, because definitely, even though I have been a project manager all my life, even though I have done business analysis, I might read online Scrum Master, and God might give me a skill of how to teach. I can teach people what Scrum is about, but I've never worked as a Scrum Master before. So I would never do better than somebody who has worked what you see these days are people who go online, learn what Scrum Master is about, and begin to teach people Scrum Master, but they have never in their life worked as a Scrum Master. So we are not like that. So the key thing is, apart from teaching you what Scrum Master does, what they use, and all of that, there is that side by side. There's that hand holding where you would work directly with a Scrum Master, or you work directly with a product or business analyst, you work directly with a project manager, so that you could see these things for yourself. You could learn on the job and develop those skills. And then after then, you could actually, that Scrum Master can reference you. So if I work with Igechi now, and I'm able to do 2 projects with him, I could reference those 2 projects. And if the employers need a reference, Igechi could actually provide me reference that, yes, I worked with him. So that's way you're building that confidence and profile, because the job market is becoming a little bit so intense now, and one or little 2 things that could differentiate you from others are very, very important. And I know some persons will be asking, how do we transition from here? So I think, so Igechi, if I quickly just share my last screen, I think we already dropped a link for those who would want to book an intro call to say, okay, I'm ready to take this forward, whether it's Scrum Master, whether it's project management, whichever it is. I think I was so glad for those who decided to stay behind yesterday. I was so blessed right? Let me just put it that way, to hear some of the pain points that some persons have and how we're going to actually fix them. So in not to take plenty of our time, now the Scrum Master course, for the Scrum Master course actually has a bigger, like, has, I think for those in the international market is £700. For those in the Nigerian market is £200. Now let me explain. Now for those in Nigeria, they would actually they will go through the training and they will be paired with a Scrum Master in Nigeria. For those outside, they would go through the training and they will be paired with this, because you actually have to be paired. The key thing is the experience. So being paired with the Scrum Master who is going to provide you that level of exposure. I was a product of that, and I was able to coach a whole lot of persons by bringing them in. Igechi would testify, and a whole lot of bringing them into the project. And we worked on the project together, and they got exposed to everything. I think the question Sheye asked, to end the call, I'm going to share something. So, but I think in 3 installments, you could actually, if there are any challenges, if there's anything, please feel free, reach out to us, and we would definitely support on that. So Shaya, before we go, the question you asked, this is the answer. So I worked on the project. So if you see my screen, I hope it's not too small. Now, so this is so you could see the project board here was in blue, right? So I have the chief operating officer, the account director, and the head of project management who I was reporting to. Now, this is me, the project manager. I had a product owner, and the product owner had his Scrum team. So the Scrum Master, the reliability engineer, all of those people that Igechi mentioned, they are here. Now, I had a customer solution manager who was the business analyst, and I had a tech lead. Tech lead was in charge of the people who would do the delivery, right? So you could see the project manager here, and all of these are parts of his team working together to deliver a particular project. So I said, I was just trying to look for something that actually speaks to that. So sorry, I know this was supposed to be 1 hour, but then I want to bless and appreciate everybody who was able to join today.